up, everybody? Joe White here. Yes, I shaved. If those are watching the YouTube version of this, the beard around the goatee is gone. I tell you, I don't know how other men feel about facial hair. Me personally, I could care less about it. I could go with it or without it, to be honest. I mean, I prefer being baby-faced, as they say. My girlfriend, however, who is significantly older than I am, that's all I'm going to say, because I know she's probably watching or listening and doesn't want me to tell people how old she is. And women don't like their age to be told for some reason. It's like you're going to get older whether you want to or not. Women, you're going to get fucking wrinkles, okay? Get over it. Men, we don't care. Jesus Christ, we don't even care if... Well, I won't go into that, but... Let's just say, as parts of you become aged, so do men's parts become aged, and we adapt. We know things aren't going to be as snug as they once were, okay? Come on. Anyway, enough about the old yin-yang. 1640 PWPR, 1640 PWPR, Facebook.com/1640 PWPR, at 1640 PWPR on Twitter. A couple things I want to talk about today. I want to talk about the abysmal WWE rating. Apparently, it's the worst non-holiday rating since the Monday Night War era. Late 90s. Actually, they said since before the Monday Night War era. And I think I know the one that they're talking about. There was a Raw in Germany back in early 97, I want to say it is. Maybe late 96. Somebody correct me if they know the answer. I don't claim to know everything. But there was a Raw back then that featured British Bulldog Davey Boy Smith winning the European title. And from what Jim Cornette has said, and Vince Russo, so both of them agree on something for a change, it was a house show that they had taped in Germany with no commentary and bad lighting. So, and they were doing live commentary over this tape airing on USA for that episode of Raw. So they did this, and they did this, and then it was like the ratings tanked that time. It was a rock bottom rating for them. Give me one moment here. So it was a rock bottom rating for him. And give me just one moment. Okay, sorry. So so there was a rock bottom rating, and that's when WWE finally made the decision to go with the Attitude Era thing. And they decided to, push the envelope and be more extreme and be, as my armpit got showed there. I'm sorry, I hate wearing this tank top. Ugh. But it's the first thing I reach for. Sorry. Those of you who are listening to the audio version of this, go over to youtube.com/tons of fun WWE. You'll be able to see it there. Or just go to newsearchlive.com. There's links to everything on there. And so they hit rock bottom. And they pushed the envelope. And Russo came in and did his bit. Of course, everybody says he had a filter when he says he has no filter, and yet Vince McMahon never changed anything. And, anyway. But that's beside the point. We're not here to talk about Russo. That's another show. So then they changed things up, and things peaked up from there. Monday night comes, this past Monday, I should say. Fast forward 20 years. So it was 97, 2007. We're almost 20 years out. So I'll go ahead and say 20 years. I'll round up. It's 2015, 5 or more, you round up, I guess, in the way old math works. So 20 years now have passed pretty much. Well, 15 at least. And they hit rock bottom again this past Monday night. I don't know which Raw that they are comparing these things to, but it looks to be the worst rating since that era. And I know what a lot of people are going to say, including Vince McMahon. Well, pal, that's because Triple H and Stephanie weren't on there, so we'll put them on next week and it'll get better. It's not it. Fans didn't know that Triple H and Stephanie weren't going to be on there in the first place. Now, I could see it if WWE would have released something that said, Triple H and Stephanie will not be on tonight, and then the rating tanked, but no, they never said that. And my girlfriend even pointed out. I told my girlfriend, I was like, yeah, worst rating in 15 years. And Vince McMahon's going to blame it on, all the creative. They're going to blame it on Stephanie and Triple H not being there. My girlfriend goes, how are people supposed to know they were not going to be there unless WWE comes out and tells them? From a Mark's point of view. I think that we've hit a turning point in this business. We've hit a whole big turning point in this business, and it's been brewing since about 2002 when it very first started going. I love to cook, so I'll equate it to cooking. You set a pot of water on the stove for pasta, and it starts boiling. And you see little bitty water droplets on the bottom of the pot. And all of a sudden you see one bubble. And it takes time. A watched pot never boils, as the old saying goes. But then you see a couple more bubbles. And then you get bloop, 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 bloop. And then all of a sudden it starts raging. And starts raging. And keeps boiling and boiling and boiling. Maybe halfway through the process, you come and put a cover over the pot too. Putting a cover on it only prolongs and makes the damage worse, because guess what you get? You get foam. The surface tension of the water starts to change. And you get foam. You get this protein stuff on the water. And it bubbles and bubbles and bubbles and bubbles. All of a sudden, boop, the lid pops off. You got water everywhere. That's what the wrestling business has become, in my opinion now. Started off in 2002 with Ring of Honor. Ring of Honor started giving you shit that you had not seen maybe since ECW. And I can't really say since ECW, because ECW didn't give you that strong style of wrestling in every match like what Ring of Honor does. And it's not every match. There's the gobbledygook in there and the comedy, but Ring of Honor starts making bubbles on the bottom of the pot. Gimmicks like Age of the Fall come in, more bubbles. Start introducing the Japanese talent, more bubbles. They get better and better and better. Gabe Sapolsky leaves. Maybe that's the lid on the pot to bandage things, because then Sinclair buys it. More bubbles, more bubbles, more bubbles. Eventually, more pots start getting put on the stove in the form of the indie scene, Lucha Underground, TNA to a very lesser extent. WWE keeps doing the same thing that they've been doing. Finally, the wrestling bubble is this wrestling bubble that we're in busts. This pot that we're in busts, and everything, maybe it's a bad analogy and a bad, but you get my drift. People don't want to see 20-minute promos. There was a time in WWE where every week Triple H was coming out in the first 20 minutes of the show was one big fucking promo. Fake. They just don't want to see it no more. And WWE and TNA and Ring of Honor, Lucha Underground, they don't want to see it in anywhere. Maybe now the pot has boiled over. That surface tension has rocked too much. And people want their wrestling back. They want that style of wrestling. And people go, well, Joe, John Cena has been given, people tell me, well, John Cena's been giving good matches. John Cena's finally starting to give good matches again. He's putting people over, Joe. You can't argue with that. Is it John Cena working a certain style? Or is it the certain style forcing John Cena to adapt? I think it's the latter. We never used to see John Cena working these Ring of Honor style matches. Now he's had 3 of them in the last 2 months. 2 with Kevin Owens. 1 with Cesaro this past Monday. You guys tell me that those 3 matches were WWE style? You're fucking kidding yourself. Granted, they had the WWE style peppered in there, so I mean, maybe it was WWE style of an ROH style match. I don't know, but it was different. Everyone loved it. Guys and girls alike were creaming their pants over it. We want more of it. But you have people like Vince McMahon who sit there and go, I don't get it, pal. They eat what we feed them. Ha 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 ha. Hey, let's come out tomorrow night and have John Cena kiss my ass. Ha 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 ha. Let's see that Daniel Bryan. He's injured, right? Let's see the return of Dr. Heine. The sophomore shit that has been going on, there's no place for that anymore. When I look at the Young Bucks, that's what I see. There's no place. There may be a place for it every now and then and on the underside of the card, but there's certainly no place for that shit in the main event. Jericho called it best. There's no place for Poopy Cena anymore. Not in the main event. I think WWE's hit rock bottom. I think, and I hope, if I was a religious guy, I'd probably pray. Has Vince McMahon seen the light and realized that his style needs to change? Maybe he should hand over the reins to somebody that gets it. Maybe this rating will prove him, wrong finally. And people are going to go, well, Joe, I thought you were a WWE fanboy. I am. I like WWE. While everybody down here was watching Jim Crockett Promotions back in the day, I watched New York every week. I had access to both back in the day. I was happy to have access to both. And when I say access to both, I mean I had, we had cable. So, I mean, when we did have cable, it was 6:05 at TBS, and on every Sunday it was Superstars. Syndicated. I don't get why they haven't seen the light sooner. Now you watch it. I'm going to say all this, and there's somebody out there going, "Well, Joe, it's not going to do too good. They're not going to get the point. They're not going to stop feeding you bullshit. They're just going to keep on giving you the same old Dr. Heine Poopy Cena every week." And you're right. Maybe they will. Maybe next week we'll see Adam Rose winning their belt. Do I like Adam Rose? I did until he got up to the main roster and McMahon ruined him just like he's ruined everybody else from NXT. Well, Joe, it's the writers. You say, no. You can only blame them so much. Well, Joe, it's your board of directors. No. It's one man calling the shots, guys. Give me one moment here. Maybe somebody has... I mean, did somebody show Vince a Ring of Honor tape and go, maybe this is what we should be doing? Only put our spin on it. That rating is just... You can't blame it on the football game. Can't blame it on the basketball playoffs, the Stanley Cup playoffs, the PGA Tour, the Wimbledon. You can't blame it on the dog show, the damn freak show, the telethon for the the Haiti earthquake, the rebel flag, the gayness surrounding it. You can't blame it on anybody but yourself. There was nothing on TV that could have competed with this. Nothing on TV that drew away from this thing. There was no holiday. It's called your fucking product sucked. People have been seeing the direction you're going in. So they turned off and didn't come back this week. Myself included. I'll be honest with you. I only read about what happened with 90% of the show. I watched the first segment, groaned, fast forwarded to the John Cena, Kevin Owens stuff, which was freaking amazing, and then turned the damn thing off. You know, Pat wants to sit there and talk about on her Firehawk, excuse me. King Firehawk goes on his show here this just a little while ago and goes, if you watch the spoilers, you're premature ejaculating. It's like missing your chance to be with a good woman. I got nothing against bigger women. Hell, I prefer bigger women. But what's the old saying? It's like fucking a fat girl. Everybody, you love doing it until somebody walks in and catches you. Oh, Lord, I'll have the fat girls, I'll have the fat shamers, attacking me now. Again, I like bigger women. I don't care who knows about me watching it. But that's the minority of the fucking group. Maybe you prefer to masturbate instead of getting with her. I don't, so there's... I don't know. But I mean, if you're gonna equate it to that, you gotta go all out. Maybe I've been watching, maybe I read a couple of spoilers and I go, oh God, I'm gonna go jack off instead of watching this. I'll go watch New Japan or the Ring of Honor, which seems to be the porno of the wrestling world, or Lucha Underground. Or maybe go put on an indie tape that I know will get me off. Because the mistresses that are TNA and WWE sure as hell ain't. The ratings spoke about it this week. You know it's bad when a tried and true WWE fanboy like myself didn't watch. I deleted it off the DVR. Now people are going to go, well, Joe, I don't know how does that affect the ratings? I don't know how. Do you have to watch the full program? Do you have to watch it in a certain amount of time in order for Nielsen to get it? I don't know. I'm going to go ahead and take a quick break right here. When we come back, we're going to talk about TNA and Ring of Honor. The future looks good for one. And as I said in my other video, Ring of Honor can't eat at the kiddie table no more. They got to step it up. I'll run down why I think why. And I'll run down some of TNA's worries here, including the big GFW gimmick. And why I think it could be good for him. I don't know. Could be good or bad. We'll see. We'll see. We'll dissect it. You're listening and watching New Surge Live. 1640 PWPR. Facebook.com/1640 PWPR. 1640 PWPR. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Ladies and gentlemen, the man song.
He's the man. He's the man.
I don't take no crap from anybody else but you. I wear the pants around here when I finish with your laundry. Cause I'm a guy you don't want to fight. When I say jump, you say yeah right. I'm the man of this house until you get home.
He's the man. He's the man.
What I say goes around here right out the window. And I don't want to hear a lot of whining, so I'll shut up. The sooner you learn who's boss around here, the sooner you can give me my orders, dear. Because I'm head honcho around here, but it's all in my head.
He's the man. He's the man.
And I can have sex anytime that you want. Because I'm a man who has needs, but they're not that important. And don't expect any flowers from me, because if I'm not mistaken, you prefer jewelry. I'm the king of my castle when you're not around.
He's the man. He's the man.
And I'll drink and watch sports whenever I want to get in trouble. And I'll come home when I'm good and ready to sleep on the couch. Because a man's got to do what a man's got to do, and I'm going to do what you tell me to, because I'm top dog around here, but I've been neutered.
He's the man. He's the man. You the man.
Welcome back, folks. I figured that was appropriate, seeing as how the last segment ended the way it did. Little jab to all the women out there for the men, you just, or a little jab to the men for all the women, I should say. See, I'm not totally, I am man, hear me growl, A lot of what was said in that song is actually true. Anyway. Ring of Honor, TNA. We're going to talk a little bit about both of those. We're going to start with Ring of Honor. I'm recording this on Wednesday, and I've seen what they've aired. Again, I want to stress, there is nothing wrong with airing these matches. Okay? Nothing wrong with it whatsoever. As I pull it up, let's see what's going on here. Okay, you got Frankie Kazarian and Christopher Daniels versus Gedo and Okada. Okay? Non-title match from night 2 of War of the Worlds, which took place in Destination America, okay? In the main event, you got Adam Cole versus AJ Styles. Awesome match. Adam Page versus Watanabe. Good, okay? All three of these, now I have not watched the product, and I will. All three of these are damn good matches. However, coming off the heels of a pay-per-view, there's probably no mention on here of the War of the Worlds. If there is, they're not going to, flash back to it, or there's no significant mention of Daniels and Kazarian versus, Red Dragon, I think they took on at the pay-per-view. Sorry, I don't keep it in my head like most do, but There's no mention on here of the Briscoes. There's no mention on here of AJ Styles. Jay Lethal. Sorry. There is a mention of AJ Styles, but no Bullet Club. No, unless he comes out with the Bullet Club. There's no mention of that. No follow-up here is what I'm getting at. Again, second week in a row, no follow-up to this pay-per-view, which you've had these matches in the can for weeks now. When did these War of the Worlds take place? Here, hold on. Let's see here. May. We're now into July. I don't get it. I just don't get it. Why are we not following up to Best in the World? Title change hasn't been, the title change has been mentioned, but where's our new champion? If I'm, now people are going to say, well, Joe, you just got to accept the fact that this is Ring of Honor and they do things a little bit different. And you should know this, man. They're going to air the match. They went and paid the guy, the Japanese talent, to come over. They got to air this. No, they don't. They paid the Japanese talent a lot of money because they wanted to draw a crowd for these two nights, and they did. They did one night in Philly, I think. Or did they do both nights in Philly? I think they did both nights this year in Philly. Of War of the Worlds. It doesn't speak, you got to understand, you've gone national now. More national than syndication, okay? Syndication will only get you so far. And granted, maybe Destination America is not the biggest network in the world, but it probably airs more places, probably 3 times more places than that Sinclair shit does. Therefore, you got to appeal, wrestling audiences have been trained a certain way. Build up, build up, build up, pay-per-view. Night after the pay-per-view, fallout from pay-per-view. Maybe not as a little bit of a cool down. Maybe not as much storyline development, but if Lesnar wins the title at Battleground, the first thing you better see on Raw is Lesnar and Heyman out there with the title. If Finn Balor wins the belt at this Saturday's show, the first thing you better see is Balor walking out on NXT with the belt. Well, they already had these matches pre-taped. Come on, guys. They did a follow-up show the night after the pay-per-view at Terminal 5 in New York. Same place, same time, same fucking wrestlers. They were there. We're getting stuff that is now aired 2 months ago. Or happened about 2 months ago. Now, granted, the common fan doesn't realize that. The only thing the common fan sits there and sees is, why are we still getting this? Where's our champion? Where's our follow-up from this pay-per-view that for the 2 weeks you were on Destination America beforehand, you hyped up. We went out and bought it. I'm curious to see what the pay-per-view numbers are between the last pay-per-view from Vegas versus this pay-per-view from New York, where one was had no mention on Destination America, as shitty as a channel it may be, but this one had at least 2 weeks. I'm sure the number over here is higher. If not by a couple hundred, maybe. No excuse. And these couple hundred who have bought it are trained just even from just watching TNA over the last few months. Build up, build up, build up, big show. Build up, build up, build up, big show, aftermath. You know, you get... That's the way the common wrestling fan is. You're now booking for that common wrestling audience, that wrestling audience that didn't know what Ring of Honor was. Well, Joe, nobody's watching Ring of Honor except for the smart fans. No, they're not. You can't say that. They have some people there. They got to have some new viewers who are sitting there watching Ring of Honor for the first time. And you gotta believe that they're wanting to see Jay Lethal right now. And for 2 weeks now, they haven't. You built it up so damn good. Even the 2 weeks that were on Destination America was enough to make people want to just watch that pay-per-view. You built it up to the whole "it's my time now" shit with Lethal. You had him go over clean. You had him and Truth Martini pushed to the fucking moon. And now it's like they're going to fade out of sight over 2 weeks. When you have shit in the can from that night after that you could use. Again, it doesn't take a common, it doesn't probably take a whole lot of money to sit there and take the shit back to Baltimore where your company's stationed out of, and editors, hey, we need a show in 3 or 4 days to air on Destination America. The weekend after the pay-per-view, I could see that not doing that, but this week and last week and this week, that's 3 weeks now of no backlash, no fallout from your pay-per-view. It's crazy. There's no excuse for it. If next month we get more War of the Worlds, what does that say, man? It's like, well, yeah, he won the belt, but it's not important enough to give you now. It's not important enough to put on our TV. I don't know. It baffles my mind, guys. It really does. I'm sitting here looking at this, and if I was running that company, I would have said, hey, we need a show. That pay-per-view right there just probably made us a lot of money, and people are online buzzing about it, saying as how it's probably a match of the year or pay-per-view of the year candidate for a lot of the inside crowd. Hey, get us a tape together. We got to get an episode up there now this week. There's no excuse. No excuse at all. TNA. There's rumors of a TNA Global Force Wrestling Invasion angle coming. Not sure how I feel about this. I wish we knew what the... Maybe we're not supposed to know. Maybe we shouldn't know. I wish we knew if this was coming to a head with Global Force maybe winning. Or with even Jeff Jarrett winning and taking over the company. We don't know yet. Matches have been taped well 4 or 5 weeks in advance with no invasion angles planned. Maybe TNA is waiting for Global Force Wrestling to do their first set of TV tapings. They got to do the TV tapings, okay? Here's the thing. I could see them wanting to do the ballpark tour, which I'm probably going to. Maybe. You got to finish out your ballpark tour. You've already booked these dates. You've already booked the wrestlers. Your little minor league ballpark thing you got going on's done, okay? But when the fall comes, my big thing is, what if TNA's booted off the network in the fall? How does that work? Nobody's going to give a shit if they can't see it, you know? So you have your ballpark tour over with. You have enough TNA tapings to do that. Where do the Las Vegas TV tapings fit into this? We still don't know what network it's airing on. Hint, hint, wink, wink. Again, what if the network lets go of TNA and says, we want to just stick with Ring of Honor? If the theory does come to fruition that Jeff Jarrett has bought TNA, does Destination America take a look at it and go, oh, it's a whole new company now. Maybe we ought to stick with it. And I'm just throwing, shit at the wall and seeing what sticks here. Maybe we do the TV tapings. Here's how, I don't know. When are the TV tapings for GFW? Hold on, let me take a look here. According to their website here, ooh, it's July 24th. Wow, okay. And TNA has enough tapings to last them until when? This is live on the fly comparison going on here, I guess you would say. Let me see here. They did their bell-to-bell spoilers. Was it on the 1st? Was it tonight? Yesterday? What's today's date? Today's now the 1st. That can't have been it. Give me one moment here. Not going to talk a whole lot about video games this week. I really, I like talking about video games every week. Don't get me wrong, but oh, this is interesting. Those tapings are on the 24th, and they taped up enough TV, it looks like, through August 5th. So if they are kind of doing an invasion angle, maybe they have someone from TNA come in and do like a King of the Mountain title match or something with, Jarrett. It's going to be interesting to see. So the TNA's booked through pretty much the summer. I don't see how they're going to do this if they keep taping. You got to do something live. Jeff Jarrett was teasing an announcement tonight following Impact. Jarrett wanted to use Matt Hardy, but it doesn't look like it's in the books. Maybe Matt doesn't want to go over there. I don't know. Morale this is from the dirt sheets here. Morale is said to be at an all-time low at the recent set of tapings. Apparently, Jeff Jarrett's return didn't sit well with some of the people, feeling that the company kayfabed everyone on his return for no reason, especially since he returned on a tape show and the company was happy, and the company was happy at the news got out on Twitter. They still hid the return from production workers, the wrestlers, and the rest of the crew. Brian Fritz of SportingNews.com noted that TNA production workers were told on the 25th they wouldn't get paid for the last set of tapings until July 15th or later. Production was under the impression that they would be paid when they came in for this set of tapings. The Observer notes that there are more in heat trying to find out which member of the staff leaked the story to Fritz than people being mad at the company for putting the production workers in this situation. That's another thing that if I'm the production workers for TNA and I come in for a set of tapings on June 25th and I'm told that I wouldn't be getting paid till 20 days later, bye, it's been nice. I hear Ring of Honor's looking to up their promotion and their production. That's ridiculous. That is flat out ridiculous. 20 days without a fucking paycheck for work that's in the can and already done? That's just crazy, man. And people sit there and go, how do you know TNA's not getting paid? TNA people aren't getting paid. How do you know that are you there? How do you know, how do you trust these news sites? Well, when Matt Hardy posts last time all this shit was going down, Matt Hardy posted a photo on Twitter, okay? That had 7 paychecks. And I think the quote was, look what finally came in my mailbox today, or something like that. I was talking to Jeff Edwards about this from Blading of Truth here on 1640 PWPR, and we were talking about, maybe AJ Styles and Samoa Joe is just like when Big Show left WCW. The rats are already getting off the ship. All these other supposed releases, maybe too. The releases, from what I've been told, are a ruse. Nobody's fucking leaving. They're going to Ground Zero so they can be a part of this invasion shit. I don't see how it's going to work. And people go, well, Joe, you shouldn't want TNA to go out of business. I don't want TNA to go out of business. But if that's what it takes to get Dixie Carter away from this business, if that's what it takes to get Jim Herd Jr. out of here, then that's what it takes, because, I think that something's got to give with them. Well, Joe, they're okay. They're doing fine. No, they're not. When you have rumors of the network telling you that pretty much 6 months is all you've had, that's it. We don't care what you're doing, you're gone. When you have the network go, we found this other wrestling, they're a lot cheaper to carry, maybe even a lot better than you. Makes me wonder what they're really thinking. Makes me wonder what's really going on inside of Dixie Carter's head. Makes me wonder, you don't see anybody having a bad thing to say about Lucha Underground. Any. At all. Maybe it's because they got Mark Burnett, the guy behind Survivor, pushing it. Maybe because the show kind of looks like a reality show when you watch it. Maybe it's because they taped so far ago that you've forgotten, the spoilers ain't up no more, and you've forgotten what happened. Here's a little thing about Lucha Underground that befuddles me. They still have not been picked up for a second season. I've not seen a thing online or anywhere else for that matter that says season 2 of Lucha Underground coming soon. Here's another thing that intrigues me too about Lucha Underground. Will Lucha Underground do what so many fans have been clamoring for recent years? Even though it's a taped product, will they do this whole thing of, hey, maybe you need to take some time off? Maybe you need to run 6 or 7 months and then take 6 or 7 months off or 3 or 4 months off. It gives your wrestlers a chance to go other places and improve if they want to, and get some much needed rest if they need to. B, and maybe even more importantly, it gives your creative team time to recharge the batteries. It gives your creative team and your writers and your producers time to go, numbers did good here. Let's do let's beef up the production value. B, let's put this in different locations besides an underground thing of LA. Now granted, it's Lucha Underground, that's the charm, I get it, but maybe, maybe Lucha Underground could go to New York City for a couple of episodes. Maybe you have a rival Lucha promotion because there is a huge Latino version or influence in New York. Maybe we have Lucha Underground Season 2 focus on the New York chain of things. Maybe there's a different promoter up there doing the same thing. And we do it, maybe we could use different East Coast wrestlers and do it from their point of view, People are going to go, no, that's a shitty idea, which maybe it is, but it's an idea. Maybe that could be your Season 2. But if you scratch all that, maybe, we could beef up production values at least, okay? Scrap the New York idea. It was shitty. Could be good to some people. I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments below about it. The thing with Mark Burnett producing this is that Mark Burnett and everybody else does what I've said for years. You tackle it as a wrestling promotion, but more importantly, it is a TV show. I haven't heard any plans to take this on the road. Good. Maybe they're going to prove the point that you don't maybe necessarily need to. With TNA, you need to. It's a different business model. It's not as episodic like what Lucha Underground is. Go listen to Jeff Edwards, guys. I'm going to put it over here. Go listen to every show on 1640 PWPR. Trust me. From Ken Reedy to me to Blading for Truth, it's good stuff on that network, especially King Firehawk, man. King Firehawk did a hell of a show this past week. But Jeff Edwards of Blading for Truth did an episode called All Hell LU. Very good. Talks a lot about Lucha Underground. Lucha Underground is a show that I could see being on DVD. Because the build for it is so episodic and so much like a TV show or so much like a reality show that I could sit there and watch it 1 through whatever, you know? Maybe that's a show that, you know, we talk about wrestling on Netflix. El Rey ain't working out. I would love to see Lucha Underground on Netflix. That's a prime wrestling show for Netflix right there. I'm glad you agree, Kat. What is it, Shadow? But I just think that there's something's got to change with TNA. Anyway, 1640 PWPR coming up next. And maybe the rats are off the ship already, like I said before. Maybe all this, and if you're going to do an invasion angle, I hope to God the fucking thing is that Dixie Carter is finally gone, Panda Energy's name gets wiped away from TNA, and that Global Force has taken the fucking thing over completely. And you don't, and I pray that it's not a shoot, or not a work, I pray it's a shoot. I don't want to see a company go under. I really don't want to see fucking people, you know. Well, Joe, it's just like a sports team. You got to work through it through the rotten years. Well, they've had about, out of the 13 years that they've had that's been rotten, or the 13 years that they've had, maybe about 7 of them, 8 of them even have been rotten. Can't tell you when the last time I watched a full episode of Impact. Because it bores the fuck out of me. It's all over the goddamn place. And then just when you do start to get into it, they're going to, reset. Doot. I don't want to see wrestlers out of work. But if this shit with James Storm is true, and Pat goes, you know, well, it gives young guys a chance to step up and make some money. How long does that last? 2-3 months until they get known? And then they could go to the indies? And then what do you have? You have an inflated indie market where nobody can afford these guys. It's not good. 1640 PWPR, 1640 PW, Facebook.com/1640 PWPR, I should say. Go there. Listen to everybody. We are doing so good. We're doing so good over there. I am so proud to be a part of this network, guys. 1640 PWPR. On Twitter at 1640 PWPR. Facebook.com/1640 PWPR. When we come back, it's kind of a long episode today. I know it is long. We're going to hang right in there. When we come back, Phenom Phil Stamper joins us. Phenom Phil's got a little bit of news for us that he really couldn't tell us last time he was on the air. We're going to ask him a bunch of questions about his new venture. When he came on the show last week, you had wrestler, actor, fellow geek, and now we can add promoter to that list, and we'll explain why we can add promoter to that list when we come back. You're listening to New Search Live and watching New Search Live. Those of you watching on the YouTube channel, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. I very much appreciate it. Those who are listening on the radio side, please go to youtube.com/tonsoffunwwe and keep up with it. Go to newsurgelive.com. Hit us up there. There's links to everything on there. And we'll be right back with Phenom Phil Stamper. Stay with us, folks. Thank you for watching and listening. And 1640 PWPR, 1640 PWPR, Facebook.com/1640 PWPR. Joining me right now, ladies and gentlemen, on the News Search Live line. You're probably wondering, people watching the YouTube version, why the Heartland Wrestling Association logo is appearing on one side of the screen and Phil Stamper's picture is appearing on the other. Well, I guess now we could call him professional wrestler, actor, Hoovian, and now promoter? Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back Phil Stamper. Phil, how are you doing this evening?
I am good. How are you, sir?
I'm here, man. I don't have the hour and a half drive ahead of me that you mentioned, but I'm doing good nonetheless.
I actually thought I would be home by now, so.
We all get snagged up at work, man. I mean, I take phone calls here, and I'm lucky enough to have a work from home job, but even still, you think you're going to get you're 2 minutes away from getting off work, and all of a sudden a 30-minute phone call trying to get to some old lady with an iPad's internet comes in. It snags you. Word for people: if you're going to buy somebody a gift, show them how to use it first. But we had you on a couple weeks ago, and you said you had a bit of the news for us. And I want to say, well, actually, it was early this week that news came out. You have purchased, and are now the quote-unquote promoter, I guess, of Heartland Wrestling Federation. Why don't you give everybody a little bit of a background? I'm going to give you the floor here as long as you want it. Give everybody a little background of what HWA is for those who may have not have heard of it before, and how the sale came to fall, like how this fell into your lap, so to speak.
Wow. Heartland Wrestling Association has been around for about 20 years. It has a tremendous legacy in the history of modern professional wrestling. And it's interesting to think about it, because now it is a property that is not necessarily as known, which is more interesting to me because in the last 10 years, it's developed superstars like Sami Callihan, now Solomon Crowe in NXT, Jon Moxley, who's now Dean Ambrose in the WWE, Nigel McGuinness, who's Nigel McGuinness. It has flourished so many great talents who are in modern-day wrestling. But then if you go back in HWA's history, it was one of the first developmental territories as well. It was a developmental opportunity for both WCW and WWE. So it has a great wrestling legacy as well. And I do think it has a tremendous place in the history of professional wrestling. And for the modern era, if you will, it was one of the first independent promotions that many fans never heard of outside of the WWE and WCW and ECW at the time, because of its exposure on both MTV with True Life, I Want to Be a Pro Wrestler, and I think it was on 2020. So there was a lot of attention to it for this promotion out of Cincinnati. It was ran by Les Thatcher. Les Thatcher himself, along with Harley Race and Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, both do, or all three, do an entity called Elite Pro Wrestling Training, and right now they travel the country and give insight and trainings on professional wrestling to talent around, not just the country, but around the world. And it was started by Les Thatcher, HWA was. So it has, again, such a legacy and such a component in the history of professional wrestling.
I mean, people who don't know, I'm going to read off some names here. Mike Sanders, Shannon Moore, Victoria, Lisa Moretti, I think it is. The Hardy Boys spent time there. Charlie and Russ Haas both got their start there. Bill DeMott got his start there. Elix Skipper, B.J. Whitmer, Matt Stryker, Shark Boy, Cody Hawk, Chad Collier. I mean, a who's who of names have came through that camp and through that promotion in recent years. And there was a rumor going around in the fall of 2014 that they were going to cease operations up in that, I don't know what you would call that Midwestern area. It's not really Midwest, it's not New England, and it's not really Ohio Valley. It's kind of like that one little group of states up there. But
it is the Heartland, and they do consider themselves Midwest, and I have no reason to disagree with that, because that's where my family's from. My family's in that sort of Dayton, Cincinnati, Louisville, Indianapolis.
Nice. But they were going to move out of that area, the old owners were, and in fall of 2014 they had announced that they were moving to Georgia. And now in 2015, it gets sold to you. What happened in that little bit of a, that 6 month time frame, or almost a year time frame there?
So, and I don't know necessarily the full circumstance that caused the previous owner to move out of the Cincinnati area and then move south. I know the situation now was that there was a personal family situation for him. He was looking to mobilize very quickly and sell the property. When I saw it up, I really at first thought, wow, this is a great opportunity for someone. Again, be a component of that legacy in the history of professional wrestling. The name Heartland Wrestling Association, I think, means a lot to a lot of people in the world of wrestling. But also the video library. I mean, it's so comprehensive of all those talents that you just mentioned. And I was like, wow, it would be a great find for somebody. And as I talked with him a little bit online about, how was it going, any hits yet, I was honestly interested in I was curious myself, what could be the possibilities here. And he let me know no one really was biting on the property, which was very surprising to me. And he then was going to parse it out and sort of, I'll sell this for this and this for this and this for this and this for this. And that sort of hit me in a place, because I'm like, that would be a shame to separate the name from the legacy, from the property that would make a promotion.
You don't want to see the video library going to a place like WWE who would never even use it.
Well, I don't want to say that either, and I'll have a reason for that in a moment. But yeah, I want to keep it together. I think there's a tremendous potential in that video library. I think there's a tremendous potential in that name.
Right.
And I thought, it needs to stay together. So I made an offer. It was not as high. People have asked me, like, we saw that he was trying to sell these things off separately for X. And I was like, well, that's true. I did not pay him X. I think I came in with a good deal for both of us. And I was very happy that I was the one that in the end won the bid.
I want to go back because I did a little bit of research here, and the guy who posted this, I don't know who the previous owner was, but the guy who had posted this on Twitter was like, I don't know if it was joking in a tweet, but I read a tweet by the guy. It's on the Heartland Wrestling Promotions Twitter page, I believe, unless you've taken it down. It's for sale, one wrestling promotion. You get X, Y, and Z if you buy in. I mean, is that pretty much how you found out about this?
Actually, because of my work as Nate Cyan, I do so much press writing and putting up stuff. I'm a member of a number of different Facebook groups. And I actually saw somebody else posted in one of those Facebook groups saying, hey, this just got posted on Heartland's page. And I was like, wow, that's odd. And I went to the page because, I thought it could be a prank at first. And then looked into it and was like, oh, wow. And so I want to say that the sort of the trail of the timeline that I saw was Wednesday I saw it. I actually tagged other people who I thought might be interested. Thursday, I followed up with him. I made a very low offer, to be honest. He countered. Friday, I made another offer, and he accepted. And that Saturday, he drove from Georgia and met me in Virginia, and we made the deal. Joe, are you there?
I'm here. Sorry. I had to mute the microphone because sometimes the feedback from the headset could go into the mic and cause an echo, and I didn't want that for us. So, but I mean, it's crazy that the sale actually took place in Virginia, of all places. I mean, I guess it's kind of like a common meeting place for the two of you. I mean, kind of a halfway deal. But I mean, still, it's to think that hey, let's drive halfway and do the deal there. I mean, no attorneys involved. No real big paperwork, just you hand me the money and I'll hand you a promotion. That's kind of crazy to think about in this day and age.
There is a bill of sale involved, so there is some legitimacy that we had to do to it, and a notary, and some of those kind of formal things that we have to do. but yeah, and that's also to a degree what made this so appealing. That there, again, that legacy of Heartland, I think there is so much potential with this property, and there's so much great talent that have walked through the doors, and I think there's so much talent out there. I think one of the things that when I've talked about other promotions that I have previously worked with, even in more recent history, I've always said, there's enough great talent out there that you could have 5 absolutely stupendous promotions out there without batting an eye. There's that much great talent out there.
Yeah.
And I think it's at that point again where, especially where Heartland's position, primarily that ran primarily out of the Cincinnati area, there's easy linkages to so many talents because you're literally in a crossroads of so many places.
I mean, it's Ohio, it's Michigan, it's parts of Kentucky, like you were mentioning. What states are you looking to cover? Are you looking to go beyond those core group of states with this? Are you looking to, I mean, I know it's very, very early and you say you're not really planning to run an event, and I'm sure you've only owned the promotion less than a week, but what are your plans to stick to that core group of states?
And so a couple of different responses to that. First, absolutely, I'm not going to go into this blind. I'm not going to rush in and just go, hey, let's have an event for the sake of having an event. To me, even if, let's say I didn't go the direction of Heartland, I've been looking to run something for a long time. And I've never wanted it to be, let's just throw up a ring and let's just see what happens. Because that never succeeds. And so you have to build a promotion that is stable, that has a strong foundation, that is able to move itself forward. But it's also called Heartland Wrestling Association. So where that name is definitely known around the United States, and actually I've gotten a great following and interest from people in England about what's going to happen next. I feel it belongs in the Heartland, to be honest. So when you say, like, where am I looking to run? Well, yeah, I am looking to run in the Cincinnati area, in Indiana. But I'm open to some opportunities. I have a lot of groundwork. Like you said, I've owned this company for a week and a half. So there's a lot of groundwork before any event is run. And again, regardless of the fact of it being HWA, before putting on an event, there's so much you need to do. You need to scout your venue. Do you have a crew? Because no one person can run a promotion by themselves. Even if you have a venue, what is the production element going to be like? How are you running the production? Do you have camera guys? Do you have the appropriate lighting? Which, granted, came with the sale, so hey, I left out there. But there, and even then, I have lighting. I don't know if the venue will have the rigging to support the lighting, because that's another purchase I need to make. Mm-hmm. So there, it really is going to depend on the groundwork now that I have in front of me. The most immediate thing for me, honestly, is the video library. And I say that, I think people get a little callous when I say that, and I don't mean that in a cold way. HWA has 20 years of footage.
Yeah.
If there is anything to immediately, let's face it, wrestling is a business, and I think people forget that sometimes we need to treat it as a business.
Absolutely.
And be financially smart about things. That's where the revenue is going to come from right away. Unfortunately, though I have all of the physical footage, it really needs to be organized. There is no catalog. And now some people will say, well, you can go online and find the results of all their live events. So they had a mix of things. HWA for a very long time ran weekly events, and out of those weekly events created weekly television. But they didn't necessarily go, here's our 2-hour event. We somehow magically crammed it into 1 hour of time and put it every week on television. So there was editing done. I have footage from the television shows, but then they also had, I'm going to say roughly bi-monthly, quarterly, bigger sized events. So like your television events led up to a bigger event, which is a great model. But there's no real catalog.
Sorry, right? I hate to interrupt. That's kind of what TNA is doing right now. How your television, your little event, big event on TV that we call Destination X or something like that.
Right. and the television events or the televised shows did not or do not have a catalog. So
Wow.
no can find the results of the live events that were held weekly to make the television show. There's nothing that says, well, on this episode of this television, this is what you would see. It's also largely not for sale. It's never been for sale. So I think there is a better opportunity to put it out in front of the face of fans, especially from that area that grew up watching it. Not even growing up, because as recent as 2010 they had television. So a very recent fan base was watching John Moxley and watching Sami Callihan and watching Nigel McGuinness and Matt Stryker and Pepper Parks, and oh my God, the amount of talent that came through there, that's in their recent history. And to see that, wait a minute, this has never been put together in some fashion. I don't even know what the final fashion should be of it, but so it needs to be put together, so it can be better showcased.
I wanted to ask you about you. I'm going to ask about you personally, and if you want to tell me to shut my mouth up about it, I will. You released a video a long time ago, and you know probably what video I'm going to be promoting or putting over here, and it's on your YouTube page called For the Boys, I think it was called, where you talk about promoters and how, one who promotes is the famous thing that you say in that thing. And that video has stuck with me all these years because it's 100% accurate. Now that you're on the other side of the coin, how does it make you feel to know that you've gone literally almost overnight, kind of, might as well say overnight, from being a wrestler to one who promotes?
It's definitely interesting to think of the fact that now I'm the owner of HWA. On the other side of it, to me, it doesn't change, because I've always been somebody that if I'm going to say anything, if I'm going to put something out, it needs to be what I'm meaning to say. So by me saying that, it's even though I've not been the owner of a promotion before, behind the scenes, I did a lot with CZW, Pro Wrestling Unplugged, so many other companies where I was handling business for those companies.
Right.
I was making arrangements for talent. I was, if you will, contracting people and making agreements. So for me, it was I had to be on point with the message that I was saying, the opportunities I was providing, the promises I was making. Because for me, it was this, yes, I may be doing it on behalf of the company, but I am saying it, so therefore it's going to come back to me. And if something doesn't come through on what I have said, that represents me, as well as the company. So for me, it hasn't really changed that sentiment. It is very true. And a promoter needs to be one who promotes, one who holds to their promises. And that is something that is very true to the core of me. I'm sure we'll get to talk about this in a moment, but I've had a couple of conversations now with Les Thatcher, and as we were talking, I shared with him a little bit of. It was funny because he's like, "I know who you are," which surprised the hell out of me. But the other part of it was to tell him a little bit about my experience and belief about marketing and advertising, because and just logistically, I live in Maryland. Heartland, if it's going to run out of Cincinnati, again, there has to be a lot of groundwork done, which I have not beyond doing. But it can't rest on, I'm just going to promote this online. If you've seen those promotions that just try to do it online, they do not succeed. So there has to be a ground team in place, for lack of a better term, ground team, in place to make this happen wherever an event is going to come. But right now, because it's what I have the access to, I am trying to leverage, especially their social media, Facebook and Twitter and YouTube and Instagram, and really try to put it back out there in the minds of the people who would be the most interested in the product. And it's been amazing for me since the announcement to see the numbers in the social media just continue to escalate. The Facebook page has gone up by about 33% in the past week. Twitter in the same amount. I had to start the Instagram account from scratch.
Wow.
So it's been very quick. It has been time consuming. There are times I went to lunch with a friend the other day, and I logged onto Instagram. And while I'm on Instagram, I'm messaging people about it. So it is going to be something that is going to be labor intensive. But I'm also not necessarily. You alluded to something before with the video library about you don't want to give it to the WWE. No one will ever see it. Well, honestly, let's face it, and I want to be very careful about how I word this. There is a direct tie-in of the history of HWA to both the history and the current product of the WWE.
Mm-hmm.
As much as they have had interest in other properties, they have had an interest in the past in Heartland Wrestling Association. And I am no dummy to that. I am no dummy to the fact that the WWE Network needs to have content and thrives on content. And even separate from the network, when you look at just what they sell through DVDs, they have to have a product and content for those DVDs that might even need to go beyond what they currently are packaging, so that way it makes it like, oh, wait a minute, we've never seen this footage before. So, but to be able to do it, I'm not even sure if I'm going down that road, if there is even an interest. But that's the other reason why it's so important to catalog it, because whether I go through our exclusive vendor at SmartMark right now, SmartMark Video, or I go to the WWE Network, I think either way I have to be able to go, well, wait a minute, this is what is in this catalog. I have all this footage of this person, all right? Or hey, since the major events are up on SmartMark, why don't we do bundle packages and the 3 months of television that led up to the major event, why don't we package that together and try to reinvigorate this brand and make it a little bit more interesting so people can watch what led up to the big event and sell it together as a bigger package.
Yeah, I mean there is an aspect of if WWE is doing a video solely on Dean Ambrose, how about you could stand to make money off of that if they want to go to you and say, hey, can we have a little bit of footage when he first started out, and that provides a working relationship kind of with you and WWE. If you say, hey, maybe yeah, let's use that, here you go, so I mean I fully understand your point there. I want to talk about, you mentioned something about talking to Les Thatcher, and I'll be honest with you, part of me actually wanted to postpone this a week because I had the idea of it floating around in my head of maybe getting you and him on together, the original owner of it with the current owner of it now, and talk about the dichotomy of that and how things have changed. Can you go into a little bit about what your conversations with Les have been like, how his feelings are towards his promotion and what that he created, now that it's been sold to you?
Sure. And just to be clear, when I got the property, I reached out to Les Thatcher, who was the original owner, Cody Hawk, who with a group of other people bought it off of Les. I spoke with also then one of the partners that had worked with Cody, who then later was a group of another partners that owned the company, and of course the most recent owner. So I've had a lot of conversations with a lot of people. Les, for me personally, and this is just in my own personal history of professional wrestling, Les was one of the first wrestling promoters I ever talked with. As a kid, I sent HWA a message just saying, because I do have family out in the Indiana and Cincinnati area, hey, I'm going to be out here on this particular date. I see you have an event. But I can't remember if I asked some kind of question, how much were tickets, or where is the event located, or something like that. Les Thatcher actually called my grandmother's house himself, and responded back to it. I was like,
wow.
Oh. And as a kid who was not aware of the wrestling business, or not smart to it at all, really, to be like, wait a minute, you're the guy that was on MTV a month ago, and you're calling my grandmother's house.
Wow.
And now that I am in wrestling, and to know the impact that Les Thatcher himself has had, to sort of gain knowledge from him, it's, I think, a tremendous opportunity. And he has been, I won't go to maybe the nature of the first part of the exchange. But I reintroduced myself to him, and he wrote back to me, and he wrote back, I think a few hours later, just saying, I think I came off very negative to you. I'm so sorry. And I wrote back, I was like, A, I didn't take it that way. B, you were honest about where you feel things are. I'm never going to make a judgment call because it wasn't. I didn't take it. Like I said, I didn't take it in any kind of negative way anyway. But it wasn't in a way that was like nasty or mean. It was, there's a lot of work ahead of you, regardless of what you do. I hope you're prepared. Kind of that kind of a statement. And he gave some constructive criticism, like maybe here's some things you need to think about. Kind of a conversation. And I thought it was great. I was like, you're absolutely right. And that sort of then led to us having a phone conversation after some more back and forth emails and Facebook messages. And we talked for 2 hours, I think. And it was a great conversation. And I think what was good feedback for me personally. And again, I'm not just talking about Les Thatcher, the original owner of Heartland Wrestling Association. I'm talking about Les Thatcher, who now is traveling the world with the Elite Pro Wrestling training opportunity that he's doing with Harley Race and Brigade the Dragon Steamboat and so many others. To hear him say when I would make comments about my thoughts on promoting and advertising in the state of wrestling, how he would agree with things I was saying, and how he would say something, and I'm like, I completely agree with you. You're absolutely right. And so that, it was a good back and forth conversation. We also talked about some of the specifics of the history of HWA. We talked about some of the people that we had similar connections to. I won't name this person by name, though, Joe, you might have an inkling when I hint towards this. There was somebody who right away got a hold of me after it was announced, who I would say tried to work his own side deal with me. And, I was like, hold up, I don't even know what's here yet. Let me figure things out. And he said, well, I need you in touch with Les Thatcher. And, he's my buddy. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, I brought him up in conversation in my phone call with Les Thatcher. And Les was kind, but it was not. He's my buddy.
I'll ask this about this person. Is this person currently down in OVW?
No.
Okay, then I have no idea who you're talking about. You're going to have to tell me off air. But again, I thought it was a great conversation. It was very direct. I thought it was a good back and forth. And actually, I had already planned before all of this happened. I'm actually going on a vacation to Indiana next week. I have for a family function. But I'm going to Cincinnati. I'm going to Dayton. I have some business I'm going to take care of. And Les Thatcher and I are going to meet up for lunch. Nice.
And again, I'm not going to lie. I'd be ignorant if I ignored the fact that there's a little part of my brain that is saying somewhere back there, teenage me is going, wait a minute, I'm having lunch with the dude who was on MTV.
You're marking out a little. Come on, it's okay to say it.
But again, at the same time, like I said, being in pro wrestling and knowing the impact he's had and knowing the impact he is still having, to me, it's a way to soak up knowledge. And I think no matter how long you've been in the business, that is so important in any field of business, not just professional.
I mean, for people for people who don't realize what a big deal this promotion was, I don't mean to say back in the day because it's still a big deal now. When I heard that you purchased it, I'll be honest, you told me about this after our last interview. You was like, I got some big news I want to share. And then you were like, well, I can't share it because deal's not really finalized. When you told me you purchased Heartland, I marked out. I was like, holy shit, really? You bought HWA? And we lost him. Hold on. And we're back, ladies and gentlemen. World of cell phone service. But when I heard that you bought this promotion, I marked out. I was like, whoa, really? Not only the fact that my friend Phil's becoming a promoter. This is crazy. And then it's like, he bought one of the most significant independent territories of all time, you know, in this. And for people who don't realize how significant of this was, they promoted the very first Brian Pillman Memorial Show back in 1998, where not only did you have WWF, then WWF guys, but you also had people from WCW and ECW all under one roof. And that happened, I think the Terry Funk retirement show that Beyond the Mat featured, and then this are the only two times I could think of in history where that happened. So I mean that's
Like
pretty significant.
Right, the impact is huge. And I'm gonna say this because when I say this, I do not know. And like I said, to run a live event, regardless of it being Heartland Wrestling Association, putting an event together needs to be a challenge. It needs to, like I said before, requires a lot of groundwork to do. With HWA specific, I don't, and I've had such positive feedback from a lot of people, especially in the Ohio area, saying we can't wait to see Heartland Wrestling back. And that makes me hopeful about putting an event together. But I'm very realistic about it. The opportunity that might be with Heartland Wrestling Association might really be in the legacy of that video footage. And I'm not saying that something great can't be put together in a live event, and I want to do a live event. But I recognize that, has Heartland's time come and gone? I hope not. At the same time, there is value in its history and its connection to the larger history of professional wrestling, especially for the modern day.
And with the day's surge of the indie scene nowadays, what better time to really get into it? I mean, this is, within the last year and a half to 2 years, with Japan becoming more popular and now the indies becoming more popular, the business is making a comeback. So what better time if you're going to jump in than now? I want to talk to you a little bit about the sale, and if you don't want to get into details, I'll perfectly understand, but could you walk people through who may not, kind of walk them through behind the curtain of this? What exactly was included in the sale? Because you have the IP, you have the intellectual property, but what else physically, like as far as rings? We know the library came with it. You mentioned the lighting rig. What else has come with this?
Gotcha. So I just mentioned, the name, the social media presence, the video library, a lot of the lighting equipment. Unfortunately, actually, a friend of mine bought the cameras first before I was able to finalize it. Which, hey, it's great for my friend, and I'm very happy for him. Actually, I have the cameras myself. I'm gonna be delivering them to him when I go out to Indiana next week. Again, happy for him. A lot of posters, the ring canvas, 2 sets of ring aprons, the heavyweight title belt, the tag team title belt. A VHS to DVD converter, a DVD burner. I know I'm forgetting something, but that's what it.
No physical rings or anything like that.
Right, no physical ring. He no longer had one. HWA for the longest time had its own facility. They no longer have their own facility. So again, that's why I say when there's groundwork to be done, there's groundwork to be done. Just because it didn't come with some of those other things that you need for a wrestling promotion. At the same time, I have a lot of those other things that a wrestling promotion needs. I have a sound system. I have additional lighting. I have my own entrance way materials. There's things I already possess that I can now add to this to move forward with the promotion. But again, that's why I say when there's groundwork to be done, there's groundwork to be done. And on a very personal note, like I said a week and a half ago, to the known Heartland Wrestling Association, a week before that, I had surgery, and I had to pay for a good chunk of that surgery out of pocket. So, and I bring that up, and I bring that up for the only reason I bring it up is for me, and this kind of goes back along to echo that video. If I'm going to make a promise to somebody, hey, I want you on this event because I think you're worth it, and this is what I'm going to promise you financially. I want to do it right. I am not that person because I have learned this lesson the hard way myself from my own experience. I'm not someone who's going to go, well, let's see what happens at the gate today. That is not a way you run an event.
Now you want to be able to say, "Hey, welcome to the event. Glad you showed up. Bam, here's your envelope."
Right.
You know, and that's the way it should be done. It shouldn't. The days of let's see what we draw are over with. I mean, if AJ Styles shows up to your event, you're going to pay him, or else he's going to hop in his car and go right back home, and then probably you'll receive a bill for the airline ticket too. You know. But I honestly, man, when you told me that you were becoming a promoter, I was like, there's no better guy to jump into this, man. I mean, because you got your head on straight. You know what you want to do with it. You don't say, I did not expect to hear, okay, I own it. First live event is in a month. No, you can't do that. You just can't, especially with a promotion that's had its ups and downs like this one. Going back to Les Thatcher, any plans to bring him in as far as like a consultant or anything like that?
To be honest, I'm not sure. I don't want to say directly, but I know there are things that Les is dealing with, and I don't know if this is where he wants to go back and focus his time on. So I don't want to speak for him on that aspect. But honestly, it is something I have thought about. And like I said, I've also talked to the other owners that have been involved in the past too, and I do think about that as well. Is there an opportunity for maybe them to get involved in a certain way? Now, in some cases, some of the owners may not need to interact. I'm very aware of that situation. But I also want to make something very clear, that for me, this is not me going in and going, okay, I'm competing with somebody else because I don't compete with anybody. Like, I really, really don't. Correction, there's one person in the world of professional wrestling I do not care for at all, completely. That one person is like, hey, well, this person, it doesn't even exist in that area. But there's nobody in that area that I have any issues with, concerns with, problems with. I'm not looking, and just in that local area around Cincinnati, you have AWF First Class, you have Rockstar, you have Tough, you have a show, Superheroes of Wrestling. There's one other that I know I'm forgetting about that I'm going to kick myself for later. So I know that there are other promotions around there. So bringing Heartland Wrestling Association back has to be something that's able to stand up on its own 2 feet that isn't a replica of especially Rockstar, who I'm associated with. Though I think the world of everybody at Rockstar, if I take the locker room of Rockstar and deposit it at Heartland Wrestling Association, well then I'm just bringing a Rockstar show to Heartland. So to me, it has to be a mix of different people that you don't necessarily see in that area that are also great talent. And I'm associated with a number of different promotions. So for me, I'm not just going to bring the talent in that, it's just going to replicate another promotion and, oh yeah, let's just now call it Heartland.
Yeah, you don't want to do like what North Carolina is, where it's the same people every other weekend at the same shows, the same gimmick. It's kind of like what the Southern California wrestling scene was back in like 2005, 2006. Human Tornado would go hit 2-3 shows a weekend. You know, you can't be like that. You want to give the people something that they can't get anywhere else, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
I want to ask about your how this now impacts your wrestling side of things as far as being a performer. I did not get to come to AIWF Mid-Atlantic, and I'm so sorry I didn't, but Bills came first. Did you tell anybody in the locker room at any indie events that you've been to in the last couple of weekends? And if so, how was the reaction from the boys, so to speak?
Well, I told I don't know his official role. He's not the owner. He's not really the booker per se, but somebody else who's very high up involved behind the scenes at AWF. By the time I showed up in the locker room, he had already told most everything, including Shark Boy.
Wow.
So that was a very interesting conversation. Nothing bad at all. Nothing bad. But being associated, especially most recently with CZW, I'm very used to and experienced with being the guy that people go to, like, hey, how do I get in? Hey, can you book me? Hey, and try and very cordially and politely dealing with those lines of questioning, no matter how badgering Kevin Phoenix. So I'm sorry, I probably shouldn't have said that. But
You're fine. It is what it is, man. I mean, if people come up to you constantly go, "Hey, how can you get me in?" It's like, I'm not the booker. I'm not the promoter. I'm not the one that's going to be paying you.
Right.
I totally understand where you're coming from.
Well, in the case of Heartland, I will be.
Right.
So, a lot of people, most people have been very congratulatory. I think what has surprised me the most, and I learned before all this happened, the last time I was at Rockstar, they have a very dedicated fan base, and I was surprised first by the reaction that I got from that fan base, that they have now come to know me, which was surprising. And I kind of expected backlash from some of the people, both fans and wrestlers, again, associated with Rockstar, who I'm associated with, because there used to be a bit of a rivalry between them. And there's, bad blood from something behind the scenes. To be very honest, I'm not going to speak on that any further because I was not part of it. And so to hear very positive feedback, I've been very honored. And I've seen a couple people who, if they have said something negative about the promotion, that I've seen other people step in, including a lot of the boys stepping in and saying, "Wait a minute, you don't know Phil, and this is what Phil can do." And okay, I'm gonna use it. And they have said, "I trusted Phil," that he's gonna do the right thing.
That's awesome.
And that, to me, that means a lot to me on a very, very personal level. But I have to make something clear because I have also seen the mistake that a lot of promoters do, and I was challenging on the word for a second because I see a lot of promoters who don't want to step away from the ring in order to promote. And for me, I'm not going to make that mistake, especially with Heartland Wrestling. I think when I run Heartland Wrestling Association, you're not going to see me in the ring as an in-ring competitor because my focus needs to be on making sure that event runs smooth.
So are you are you retiring from the ring?
No, I am not retiring from the ring, but I need to be smart about it. If I'm running my own event, I'm not going to. I'm trying to think of a good analogy. A good analogy is not coming to mind because, all right, let's face it. When you go to a restaurant, you're going to a pizza place. You're going for the pizza. You don't care about the cook, but you need the cook in order to have the pizza. So I'm not looking to run my own promotion in order to put myself out there as a wrestler. I'm going to run my own promotion because I want to add something to professional wrestling. I want to give guys an opportunity to put themselves out there, and for me to best organize it for them to do that. If that is my role and that is my lot, then that's what it needs to be with a company that I own. That does not mean I'm going to stop wrestling at other places. I'm still involved with a lot of other companies. I'm still going to be wrestling for AWF Mid-Atlantic. I'm still going to be involved with Legacy Wrestling in Pennsylvania. I'm still the general manager of Grand Slam Wrestling in Pennsylvania. I'm going to Phoenix Pro in a couple of weeks, also in Pennsylvania. So I'm involved with IWA East Coast in West Virginia. And like I said, I'm involved with Rockstar out in Ohio. So I'm not going to lose those relationships, those partnerships, just because now this is going to happen. Now, I do have to make Heartland a priority. So there's other things in my personal life that now are going to step aside. So now I can focus on this property and getting this property to where it needs to be. And like I said, to run an event, regardless if it was Heartland or not, it takes some groundwork to do. So if I'm going to look to do that, I need to do that the best way and not just half-assed.
So what you're saying basically is we'll never see Phil Stamper wrestling for XYZ promotion on Friday and then running a promotion or running a Heartland show on Saturday night. It's you're all in or you're all out with it pretty much. Because, I mean, you'll still pop up on other promotions on off weekends or whatever, but the weekend that you have a show or an event, I'm sorry, you hate them being called shows, they're events. Your focus on event weekend is HWA and the promotion that goes into that.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of people even forget that, and a lot of promotions I work with now sometimes forget that even the day of an event, outside of the setup of the event itself, there is still promoting to be done. What is that event that's happening down the street in the early afternoon that when it ends at 5 o'clock, oh, wait a minute, is there an opportunity for them to now make their way to our event? And I think a lot of promoters forget about that. Yeah, a lot of promoters.
I mean, there's something to be said, and it's not just, hey, it's the other wrestling events ending at this time and we're starting at this time. It's other events happening in said community. If the wine tasting festival down the street is ending at there, maybe we can joke a couple of the drunks into coming to the wrestling show. I mean, it happens. I mean, it's especially if the winery's right around the corner from the arena. Hey, ask the winery, hey, can we put some flyers up after the show? Come here, or go paper the cars while the wine event's happening, stuff like that. I totally understand. There's a lot to do, and that's why when I tell people, trust in Phil, he knows what he's doing. I mean, and you won't half-ass it. That's why I was kind of relieved to hear, hey, if anybody's going to be a promoter, it's got to be you. One more thing I want to talk about is, well, there's two things. One is AIWF Mid-Atlantic. What is up with Rick Diesel? He said, if anybody's going on, you were at the show. He made a comment about Dixie Carter smelling like fish.
Oh, God. To Shark Boy.
To Shark Boy. I popped so hard. Oh, my Lord. Because I've seen Rick. Rick gave me a thumbs up that time I brung that sign to the event for you with Howie We Trust. So I popped Rick with the sign. So me and Rick Rick and Tim had a couple of, conversations about it, about how we were all Phil Stamper fans. And then he's always been behind the scenes, though. You really didn't see or hear too much out of Rick. And then to see him come out as the quote unquote creative control and cut a promo like that was crazy.
I mean, Rick is definitely the driving force of Mid-Atlantic.
Oh, yeah.
And he likes to pop up now and again. So I will say that when he speaks, it's always going to be entertaining.
When he made that comment about, now I know why you floundered in TNA or something because Dixie Carter smells like fish or some shit, I was like, oh my Lord, because everybody who's watching and listening to New Surge Live knows that I've been calling Dixie Carter Jim Herd Jr. for the better part of a year now. So I popped huge when I heard that. But back to HWA, I wanted to ask you, speaking of people like Shark Boy and wrestlers and everything, I know you said you're far off from running a promotion, and I know you may not want to speak too hard on this, but what sort of talent are you eyeing up? What style is HWA going to be now? Are we going to see more of a AIWF Mid-Atlantic? Are we going to see more of a Ring of Honor style, kind of like a PWX kind of is in the Carolinas type thing? Are we going to see a mix of everything? What is going to be their style?
Well, I think the one advantage, if there is one, of Heartland not running in about a year is really the fact that you're not breaking new ground because there is a legacy and a history to the company, but that really you can hit the ground running fresh. And I think one thing that I always hate is when you have a promotion that does something that just feels so forced. And honestly, some of those companies just flounder until they find their own rhythm, and some don't find their own. And so I will be honest in saying I have thought about particular talent. I'm not going to say who because, again, I'm not going to put that out there because I don't even have a date yet. Until I have a date, I'm not even going to do that. The only thing I will say is because there is already drama over the HWA Heavyweight Championship.
Oh, my Lord. I'll go ahead and put it out there. According to the Wikipedia page, which I see you've already edited, at least somebody has. You didn't. Somebody has because your name's on it.
I didn't, but I saw it and they misspelled my name.
Yeah, I noticed that. I was like, oh my Lord. I was like, either Phil was like up late at night when he did this or somebody else butchered it. The current champion right now, as of July 2013, so you might as well say 2 years now, Chance Profit. And Chance Profit has been all over the place since then. So I'll go ahead
Right.
and ask it. Is Chance Profit, and this may be a little bit kayfabe for somebody. Oh well, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. We could do kayfabe on here too. Is Chance Profit still the HWA Heavyweight Champion?
As of the last HWA event in July 2014, Chance Profit was and still is the Heartland Wrestling Association Heavyweight Champion. There is no reason to change that. You're absolutely right. Chance Profit is out there. He's everywhere.
Oh yeah.
Actually, I know next Friday he's at AIWF First Class in Franklin, Ohio. I know he's wrestling for AWL down in North Carolina. He is all over the place. I know there are very interested parties that are looking at him for a broader extension of being Chance Profit. That's probably the best pseudo kayfabe way I can put that out there. But I also know some of the drama occurs because the event before the last HWA event, Chance Profit was not the man who walked out with that title. Dustin Reyes was the man who walked out with the HWA Heavyweight Championship. At the next event, Dustin Reyes was not there, but Chance was the one who walked away with the HWA Heavyweight Championship. So there is a bit of drama over that belt. And that's okay. That's okay. Because, and he's still here today, that is what people are asking about. That again tells me there is still an interest in Heartland, that there is still an interest in Chance being the champion, that there's still interest in Dustin Reyes being the champion. So for me, it's like, wow, there is already something there that can start the foundation from which to work from.
I want to ask about the tag team titles here, going with the quote-unquote kayfabe. I knew her once. I dated her. Hell of a woman. Anyway, tag title says TBD, to be determined.
Mm-hmm.
You have the heavyweight title. Do you have possession of the tag titles as well? Has the tag titles never really been created? What's going on there?
Yes, I do have physical possession of both the heavyweight championship belt and the tag team title belt. So my understanding is that the tag championships were vacated. I do not have a plan moving forward for what's going to happen next with those belts. Again, I have an event to play. So that does leave it a little open for what's going to happen to the tag title.
I know you said you have an event to plan, and it's probably on your list of things to do for this promotion. It's probably number 22, 23. But as we wrap up here, I do want to ask, do you have I know you don't have a date set, and I'm not going to ask you if you have a date set, but do you have a year set?
Good question. I'm not going to answer it, and just because, again, there's a lot of groundwork. And on a personal level, like about a year ago, I was making motions towards putting an event together. I actually had started to book a couple talent, and the venue pulled out. So I have learned that lesson. I'm not saying anything until I have a piece of paper in my hand with a contract for a venue and a down payment on the building.
A lot of people don't realize how hard it is to find a venue that will, because some venues are like, sure, you can hold your event here, and then when they find out it's pro wrestling, they're still there. Oh God, okay, never mind. You know?
Right. Again, I know there is an interest, not just. I know there's an interest for professional wrestling. There's an interest for Heartland Wrestling Association, especially in that Cincinnati area. And again, the impact and legacy that Heartland has still rings very loudly in a lot of people's minds. So I do feel it needs to run in that area, and I do feel that I want to make an effort towards running an event, but not just a singular event. That if I'm putting on an event, it's to start a series of events again. I will say this very clearly. Between now and Thanksgiving, I am back in that area no less than 5 times. So I know that when it comes to doing some of that groundwork, well, guess what? I'm going to be there 5 times between now and Thanksgiving. So I know that when those opportunities are there, I'm going to also be able to take the opportunity to grab hold of those opportunities.
I want to ask a question here, and you can answer it yes or no, or you don't know yet. And I know I'm throwing a lot of things at you because again, for people who are listening, he's only owned the place for a week. Okay, so when people and I don't want people going, Joe, he's only owned the place for a week. God, don't ask that. But I it's my job as a podcaster and I've never considered myself a wrestling journalist. I'm no Meltzer or anything, but I feel the need to ask this. Women's title, yes or no?
I think there's a place for a women's championship. I currently do not own the physical belt.
Choose your words carefully, because the way women's wrestling is being perceived now, like I maybe shouldn't have asked that, but I felt like I needed to ask because women's wrestling has reached a new plateau as far as the industry of itself goes.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. I almost opened up the door to a different kind of conversation about what I own and don't own and belts and all that stuff, but I do think there's a place for women's wrestling and professional wrestling. I do, because it does. There's a place for tag wrestling, there's a place for heavyweight wrestling, there's a place for cruiserweight wrestling. It's just getting all that together. So yes, I will there be, should there be, when there will be, that's yet to be determined.
Nice. I like that answer. A lot of people are going to go, well, he dodged it. No, that's one who promotes. That's a nice way of putting it. Does it have a place? Yes. But do I know if it's going to happen? I've only owned the damn thing for a week. Give it a chance. Because
if I was to say emphatically right now, yes, there will be women's wrestling. Yes, there will be a women's title match on the very first event, whenever it happens. And then I can't book the people I want to book. Well, okay, that instantly makes me like. So I'm not just put out there that this is going to happen if it isn't going to happen.
Nice. You're right. You can't really predict the future at all, especially in the wrestling business. You just can't. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up here. We've been talking for probably about an hour now, and I know you're on the drive to work or drive home. And I don't want to bug you right when you get in the house, because I know how it's like after a hard day of work. You want to relax, especially you want to go home and look at your title belts and figure out what the hell am I going to do with you.
Well, I'm not looking at the title belts. I'm looking at VHS tapes and DVD tapes and beta tapes. And
that's what KBS. I want to... Beta?
Well, remember about 10 years ago, and even a little bit before that, handy cams a lot of them used beta tapes to record.
Okay. And then you're also figuring out for this video library how much of it is actually usable, how much of it is just so deteriorated that you can't watch it no more. Can it be cleaned up? Can it be restored?
I will say, fortunately, the stuff I'm looking at is in pretty decent shape. What's funny is in some cases I'm actually finding raw footage, like raw television footage or raw pre-taped pre-show segments or stuff like that, which is rather entertaining.
I was going to say a lot of bloopers.
Oh, yeah. But at the same time, there might not be an interest in some of that. A lot of it is trial and error.
Where are you storing all this stuff is what I want to know. I mean, because stupid shit like that is what intrigues me about promoting. It's like, where are you storing your footage? Because there's 20 years of footage maybe not 20, but there's years and years of footage that you got to store. There's ring aprons that you have to store, lighting rigs that you have to store. Do you have storage lockers? Do you keep it in the attic? It's
there right now. There is an empty room in my house. And
wow.
Well, it's not empty anymore.
Oh man! Tell everybody where they could go to find out about HWA, and if you want, the floor is yours here as long as you need it. Tell people where they can find you, find HWA, where they can find you wrestle in the next few weeks. Facebook.com, I think, From the Desk of Nate Stein is a list of almost every indie event happening in the country, it seems like at times. I know there's millions upon millions and more probably, but If you want a good list, find that. He's also listed on PW Insider, as that list is on there every couple of weeks or every week, actually. But the floor is yours. Take as much time as you want. Tell people where they can find out more about your new baby, so to speak, and where they can find more Phil Stamper.
Sure. And you, when we talk about the indie list, we talk about From the Desk of Nate Stein, which you can find on Facebook at facebook.com/Desk of Nate Stein, which was promoted on the Nerdist podcast, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I started getting very passionate, not about the list, but about the need for people to advertise. Because what you said is very true. I know there's more promotions out there. I'm only one person. I try to go through as many sites as I can. I go through all of my emails. And what I have found sometimes when I look up what, like especially Facebook pages, is that they won't proactively talk about their events. And instead, when I go to it the next time, I see pictures from the event that just happened.
Yeah.
And I go through its history, and I don't see anything about them talking up the next event. And when I look at their crowd, I'm like, oh, that's why you have 20 people in your crowd. And you can have, and some of them have had the best talent in the world, and nobody knows about them.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had people who, when I will try the best I can to get that list updated. But you're right. There's so many websites and so many pages and so many people talking about stuff. I may miss something. I might not know about something. It's not me intentionally hiding it. And I'll get contacted sometimes by promotions saying, why didn't you include us this week? Because of you, our draw suffered. Because we use you as a tool for advertising. And I'm like, I've never talked with you before. I don't know who you are. I didn't know you had an event. It's nothing personal. Please tell me the next time. And I'll say, like, all I need to know is the next time you have an event, and you were on the list. It's not an issue.
Again, one who promotes.
Right. So that for me is still there. And I had a moment this last week when I was putting it together, like, should I still even continue to do this? Do people even like it? And as I was thinking about it, I got 2 emails from people saying how much they appreciate going through it and finding out what's in the area. One from a talent that was looking for an opportunity, and another from a fan who was like, I didn't know this place was 10 minutes down the street for me. Thank you for doing this list. So of course, what I'm trying to do now, because it's what I have the access to do, is I want to make sure I have that good foundation in place. So when it comes to finding out more about Heartland Wrestling Association, go anywhere you can and look up HWA online, whether that's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or YouTube.
There is no formal website. HWAonline.com is not existent at the moment. So if you read on the wiki page that that's the website, it was, but it's not anymore. And I'm sure Phil's in the process of getting that corrected, maybe. But I don't want to speak for him. But go ahead.
Yeah, I'm working on that because the domain name itself is for sale, and it's a little bit higher of a price point than I'm willing to pay for a domain name. But it's on everything, so I'm trying to see what can be arranged. But look up all of the social media: HWA Online, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter. HWA Online. And if you want to know more about me, if you want to find out where I'm going to be at next, follow me on Twitter and Instagram at PS Phenom and on Facebook at P Stamper. I might have, during this conversation, reached Twitter follower 3,300 because I was at like 2296 3296 when I left an hour and a half ago.
I'll check right now. Followers 3,297.
Okay.
So go ahead, go follow Phil on Twitter.
At PS Phenom. That's PSPHENOM. PSPHENOM.
I'll put links to it down below. So everybody, also he's an actor too. What's going on? Any new news in your acting career here?
I got cast for 2 different movie projects. Unfortunately, both of them stalled out. And that happens in as much as we talk about indie wrestling, the world of indie filmmaking. Maybe that's a topic we could talk about on another day.
Yeah.
There are sometimes a lot of very awkward and unfortunate parallels. A lot of people. It's very interesting to me that Ninjas versus Monsters, which I filmed 3-4 years ago now, that went for sale. I can't remember. It went for sale 6 months ago, I think. Just now people are going, wait a minute, I just saw your profile picture. I just saw it mentioned. So it's surprising that it's getting, really in the last couple of weeks, all of a sudden out of nowhere, there's additional traction.
We asked you about it a couple weeks ago. I like the hammer character, to be honest. Who needs a gun when you have a wrench? I like that.
Right. Well, and that led to an interesting conversation with Wrench from CZW. Who's also a huge horror movie buff, so we're having a brief conversation about a possible other opportunity.
Did you see the Doctor Who video that I sent you the other day? That I tagged you in on Facebook?
Was that the piano one?
Yeah, the one where the woman is playing the theme, and as she's playing it, it's all of she's dressing as all of the doctors as it goes along. I was like, oh, Phil's gonna mark out. Click, gotta tag him in this. I've fallen out of Doctor Who, I must say, ever since Tennant is my guy, and I know I'm not the only one that have stopped watching since Tennant left, but it's hard for me to swallow the old guy. It's just hard for me to take him seriously sometimes. You went younger and younger, and now it's the old guy, and it's who's good. His acting is good, but it's kind of hard for me to go. You had such a good thing going with Tennant, but it was time to say goodbye to Tennant at the same time.
Right.
But
and I'll be honest, the Moth is not my favorite showrunner. Stephen Moffat.
No.
And people will disagree with me when I say this, and that's okay, because Matt Smith brought Doctor Who, especially for an American audience, since its revival, really brought it to the forefront in a lot of different ways. He was not my favorite Doctor.
No, mine
he was
either.
my worst. He was not my worst, though, but he just was definitely not in the realm of my favorite. And I do think the show dropped the ball in a couple of different ways. Hey, I'm not the showrunner. Maybe there's some other things that are going to be coming. I have a lot of hope with Peter Capaldi. He's very different than what we have seen, which I think is good for the property. It stands out a little bit. It does mean it gets a little weird sometimes, and it's already a show that talks about traveling in time and space. And I got my love of sci-fi from my mom. My mom was a huge Star Trek fan. The first television show I ever remember watching was a syndicated episode of Star Trek. It was Cat's Paw? Cat's Eye? I always forget. No, it was Cat's Paw. And so, like that, I remember that being my first television show ever watching. And my mom, when I talk to her sometimes about what happens on Doctor Who, she goes, wait, stop. What? Oh, my brain hurts. Oh, why are we talking about it? So, I know for some people it's not their bag, or it gets a little off center. I think they miss some good story opportunities. I think sometimes for me, and I don't, and of course I like the companions that are on the show. But for me, this show is about the Doctor. It's called Doctor Who, and I heard Russell T Davies, who was the showrunner before Stephen Moffat. Mm-hmm. I've also heard Moffat say this, but the show really is about the companions. It's about seeing the Doctor through their lens, because they're the ones that connect to the human side of everything, or they keep the Doctor sort of relevant. And where I can see maybe some of that is true, I don't think it's exclusively true. And I'm sorry, I didn't watch David Tennant because I connected to Rose. Though the story of the Doctor and Rose was good. What hooks you in, and I'm interested in. Here's a guy. In a way, in an intrinsic way, he's lost. In a way, he's trying to find himself. I feel like the story of the Doctor to me has always been more compelling than the story of the companion. Though I like the companions, and I think they add to the story in different ways. But you're right. I think more recently the show, they completely dropped the ball with the story of River. They completely dropped the ball with Clara. Mm-hmm. I like Clara, though. I really like her, and I hope she. Well, and apparently there's rumors she's having a relationship with Prince. Who's the unmarried Prince? Prince Harry.
Harry, yeah.
There's a rumor about that because he was caught
on the set,
grabbing her leg.
But to me, it's like the Doctor. When I watch Tenet, from Christmas Invasion, okay?
Hmm.
You're so wrapped up in his character. Rose was around before Tenet, okay? And not a lot of people realize it because I don't think a lot of people have seen Eccleston, but Rose was around before Tenet ever was. So that incarnation of the Doctor was new to her, obviously, but from Tenet, from moment one, when Tenet goes, "That's my fighting hand," in that very first episode, it's just
Right.
like, dude, I want to know more about this guy. Never mind the blonde with the tits. She's the eye candy, okay? I want to know more about him, you know? And
Right.
honestly, I found her mother, Rose's mom, because I had seen a bunch of stuff with her in it. I was like, oh shit, Camille's in here. Camille Cordy, I think her name is in this. So I was kind of more excited about her than Rose, even. But you're absolutely right. It's the story of the Doctor. The companion is just that. It's a companion. I feel, and there's even been a couple of episodes like Christmas specials and stuff that have been gotten more over, in my opinion, because it's just the Doctor. He still
Hmm.
has a companion in the episode, but it's focused around him, and it should always be about him. You know, the name of the show is not Doctor and the Companion. It's Doctor Who, you know, and it should always be about that. But I saw that video and I was just like, Phil is gonna love this. I didn't know if you had seen it already, because 9 times out of 10 when I find stuff like that, you're like, seen it, it's great. But I also wanted to ask if you know any information. Why are they popping up on Disney Channel? I think 2 days after our last interview, I was like, Phil, tell me more about this. Since when are they on Disney Channel?
They did a I can't. I'm trying to remember how I found out about it at first. I saw an announcement about it. I want to say in early May, late April, and then they ran Tooth and Claw, which was the second episode of Tenet. So it was the one after the Christmas Invasion,
Mm-hmm.
um, with like on a random Saturday on Disney XD. And I think it was sort of to test the market, like, hey, if we pick up Doctor Who, will it run? So they licensed. Right now, they've only licensed the first year of Tenet. And they've run it as if the show was always running. So they didn't do an introduction really to David Tennant. So I think that makes it very interesting because if they continue on with the story from there, and you get to meet Martha, and you get to meet Donna, and you get to meet everybody else that was involved, the stories are going to slowly advance and become darker. You don't know as much about the history of the Doctor, so especially when Martha comes on board. And I'm not going to say what if you haven't watched the show yet. When the Doctor starts to lie to Martha about stuff,
Yeah.
the fans might not really catch on that he's lying to her. And I think that's going to be really interesting because
And
it's not like an intentional lie. He gets caught by the pain of the truth of it.
And what about how that's appealing to a new audience now? Like when Doctor Who aired on BBC, and you used to have to go to PBS and watch it, which PBS still does. I turned on I clicked on the TV at 3 a.m. in the morning, and I saw Doctor Who airing on WUNC down in North Carolina, because we get their affiliate of the PBS station, and the footage looks horrible. I don't know why it looks so horrible now on PBS, but it looked like I was watching it through an old school TV, you know. But it was there, and I watched it. But it's like, this is Disney Channel, and this is like kids and teenagers that you're appealing to. My son watches. My son's about to turn 6 in 17 days, and he watches Disney Channel religiously. And maybe not Disney XD, but he still, you know. These are a whole new generation. We're appealing to the millennials now. How are they going to take it, not knowing that there is, you know, 9 more before him, and years upon years before of storyline before this? So what are your thoughts on that? That they're appealing to an entire new generation. It's like it was when you got me into Doctor Who, and they had just started back up again. New generation. Okay, I was in my early 20s. Now it's a whole new generation with kids.
Well, again, I think it builds up to the mystery or the intrigue about the Doctor, because you don't have that history. They aired School Reunion,
Hmm.
which was the reintroduction of Sarah Jane,
Oh man,
but definitely the introduction of Sarah Jane to this generation.
may she
Who,
rest in peace.
right? Liz Sladen, amazing. She was an amazing,
Yes.
amazing person. Um, that is the first episode that even with Eccleston and even after seeing the regeneration, that was the first time it truly discussed that, oh, wait a minute, the Doctor has been here before. Because even up to that point in the history of the TV show, they really didn't talk about all the Doctors that came before. And there was even though Russell T. Davies did put out that even Paul McGann was recognized as a Doctor, that all the Doctors were there before, they hadn't shown any of them yet. They hadn't really talked about any of them existing before. So bringing in Sarah Jane was really the first linkage that, oh, wait, there is really a history of this show. And they brought in K9. And as the show develops further, you get, okay, wait a minute. There are these other linkages. There are these other characters or previous Doctors that existed in the history of the show. I do think, and when I say this, I loved the 50th anniversary episode. I thought it was great.
Yeah.
This is gonna be telling of me and my level of nerddom, but I bought a 3D television, and one of the reasons I bought a 3D television
To watch that.
That was my first 3D thing I ever bought. Because I'm at that level. I have to admit it.
Do you think that merchandise popping up in places like Hot Topic that depict all the generations of the Doctor? You know, you have the one that wore the. I'm not like you. I can't name them all. The one that wore the scarf all the time, and the one you have the 10th and 11th and everybody else. And there's merchandise in Hot Topic. There's a T-shirt that shows all incarnations, and
right. It is definitely showing up. Well, it's showing up in American culture now.
Yeah.
It is a TV show that gets decent ratings for cable television on BBC America. The toy market has not been hit in the same way here as it was in the United Kingdom, though you can find toys at most comic book shops, really.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know when I say this, did Disney find a way to leverage that market? I really don't know.
I was going to say that was going to be my point, is that now that this, a lot of kids and this generation, like I got a 15-year-old stepdaughter who loves Doctor Who, but I don't think she's ever seen an episode. But yet she said, when I walked in, there's this place in North Carolina called Geeksboro, Geeks Borough, and it's a coffee shop where you could go in. It's like a nerd hangout. They have tons of board games, and they do like Saturday morning cartoons and video game competitions. But the very first thing you see when you walk in the door is a life-size copy of the TARDIS and a Dialect sitting right beside it.
Right.
And it's and she marks out when she sees it. But I don't think she's ever watched an episode unless she's gone on Netflix without me knowing. They never tell the grown-ups anything. But still, does Disney now bridge that gap that, okay, we're not going to, what is BBC America is what some kids are saying. And what is even PBS now? Oh, the channel we used to watch Barney on. They're not going to go to those two places to find Doctor Who, but they see Doctor Who in a place like Hot Topic, and now Disney starts airing it. Do you think that kind of is a smart way to bridge the gap?
I do. I think it's quite interesting. Because I don't know any of the financial arrangements that Disney has paid for it, but if it picks up, if it gets enough traction, who knows? And I will say, internationally, Disney does partner with BBC. Like in Australia, actually, I'm not going back up on that one. I'm not sure in Australia if they air Doctor Who, but they did air. They had an exclusive right. I think it's called Disney Australia or Australia Disney. To air a K9 spin-off show.
Really?
It's never been shown in the United States.
Wow.
The first episode I think I saw on YouTube.
Is it a cartoon or?
No, it is a live action.
I gotta see this.
I can't remember if it's just called K9 or K9 and Friends or something. Not K9 and Company, because that's something else. That was actually an opportunity. That was a spin-off pilot for K9 and Sarah Jane in the 80s that never took any traction. Which is funny because having K9 and Sarah Jane together in the Sarah Jane Adventures is almost a sequel to K9 and Company.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a whole lot of.
Do you
I
think
could
that?
go
Do you
really
think
deep
that
on that.
what I don't want to see happen with this is that Disney? I don't want to see Disney get some kind of rights to Doctor Who, where we're now seeing, how they have like it's people are going to go, oh God, Joe, you know the names of these shows, but my kids watch them. You have like Austin and Ally and Jesse and Hannah Montana and all these tween shows. I'm
Well,
sincerely hoping that they don't do a teenage Doctor Who, Because
no,
my
so
first thought when they aired Doctor Who on Disney, I was like, oh God, here we go. We're going to have teenage Doctor Who running around. They're going to mess it up.
I have heard so many rumors, and I don't even know, if any of them are possibly true. The only thing I see is that Disney was looking for content. They didn't have the money for a new show, so they wanted to get something that had an attraction to a younger audience base, like a younger teenage audience. Doctor Who kind of works, and then it's a show that you could sort of grow up with. But there is potential there. When they ended up developing, so the episode of School Reunion that I mentioned before, which reintroduces Sarah Jane, they actually did not approach her first. They went with another former companion. I think her real name is Louise Jameson, and she played a companion named Leela, whose name was used by Futurama. And there's a lot of Doctor Who connection to Futurama. That's a whole other story. But the interesting piece of the story that would have happened with Leela was left on Gallifrey, and Gallifrey is missing. So there could have been a bigger story there. But Louise Jameson, it didn't work out for her to be on the show, so they got Liz Sladen. At the same time, because Doctor Who was so popular, they were thinking about doing spin-offs. They were already developing Torchwood. They were also trying to figure out something else. They actually did pre-production work. They basically did everything but build sets and hire the cast for Rose Tyler, Defender of Earth.
Oh my God.
That was her on the alternate Earth running their Torchwood. But they thought, this is a little overkill.
Yeah.
It's a little, we're going to have other Torchwood, and now we're going to have this Torchwood. So they thought, what if we aim more for then the younger audience? Because you have Torchwood, which is like the adult audience. You have Doctor Who, that's the family show, the teenage show. Let's go for the younger audience, and that is what started in the path of developing the Sarah Jane Adventures. But even before they really got to Sarah Jane Adventures, there was a quick conversation about, should it be the stories of a young doctor on Gallifrey? Should it be like him discovering the sonic screwdriver, him figuring out how to run a TARDIS, him at the academy? And T. Davies said, you know what? No. That's going to ruin the mystique and mystery of the Doctor. How does he know these things? Who does he know? That there should still be a bit of a mystery about his past.
That should be a movie.
Right. And by showing his childhood, you would give a lot away. I think there would still be a way to do it that wouldn't. But at the same time, I think that's right. And that's how you got the character of Luke on the Sarah Jane Adventures, who plays Sarah Jane's son. He wasn't really an alien, per se. He was a clone-ish.
Yeah.
Created by aliens, but he was the super smart, intelligent boy. And it's like, oh, I wonder where that came from, Doctor.
Do you think the acquisition of Disney acquiring things like Marvel and Star Wars, where if you take a look at the latest Avenger movie, it does take a dark overtone. The Marvel movies take a dark overtone. Kids are going off and seeing this and wanting more of that dark overtone, including teenagers. My son, as a matter of fact, his favorite, we went and saw Inside Out last weekend. His favorite character in the whole movie is anger. He loves anger. Well, again, dark overtone in a kid's movie. Do you think Doctor Who, because Doctor Who goes dark as hell sometimes. I mean, there are times in that show where you're like, how does this ever make it to television, in a science fiction form, but do you think that's Disney giving kids and teenagers, because Disney XD is kind of like a teenage tween type of channel. My son doesn't watch it primarily as much. because a lot of people don't know it is a separate channel from the regular Disney Channel. But
Right.
is this Disney's way of saying, okay, we want, like you said, we wanted a show that appeals to the teenage audience, and they're wanting darker things. The winds of television are changing. We're started going back, maybe not Jerry Springer, but they want things a little bit more dark and real. Doctor Who gives that to them.
Right.
I mean, I think that's what they're going for now.
I mean, and that's a very good question, and I wish I knew. I've heard that, well, Disney might be trying this out to see if they could develop their own spin-off show. I've seen it, maybe this is a way to test the waters to see if an American companion could be tolerated, which it has before, and I think it would be okay with it. Again, just the crazy rumors. I do not think that BBC would completely sell Doctor Who to Disney. There's no way. It's their right now. It's their flagship show. It's their biggest money maker.
It's been their flagship show for the last 10 years.
Right. If it's not their biggest show, then it's up there as one of the biggest shows.
Think of who have made BBC the most money in the last 10 years. Doctor Who and Gordon Ramsay. It sounds out of left field, but it's true.
Well, and oh my gosh, I can't remember his name now. American Idol judge
Simon Cowell.
Simon Cowell. Yeah. And Big Brother there is still apparently a big thing. So hey, who knows? Who knows? Who knows why Disney's doing it? Again, Disney's not going to buy Doctor Who.
They can't afford it.
Right. They could afford it. The BBC wouldn't give up their cash cow.
Oh God! If Disney buys Doctor Who, think about it. You got Marvel, Doctor Who, and Star Wars all under the same roof.
Right.
Let the crossover headaches begin. Oh my God, no.
Well, and when I say this, I totally acknowledge what I'm about to admit to. I love fan films. I will go on YouTube sometimes and just search Doctor Who superhero fan film. It's sort of dumb. I'm watching a web series right now called The New Adventures of Peter and Wendy. It's just odd. I don't even know what it is. It's not a romantic thing, but it's definitely not like the magical tale of living in Neverland. But anyway, there are some really interesting Doctor Who spins there on some of their fan films. And one of the characters that you never got to meet him, but you did see his arm. The Doctor mentioned another Time Lord in an episode. I won't overly spoil it. He finds out that a friend might be alive, and then he finds out, well, he wasn't. But a lot of these fan films have picked up, what if we do the adventures of this character? And maybe he is still alive, and this is how he could still be alive. Could that be it? And it's a way to introduce, here we've introduced the story of the Doctor to an American audience. What if we do a different Time Lord? Oh, well, he just happens to speak with an American accent.
Wow.
No,
I don't think I could take the Doctor with an American accent, to be honest. I don't care if it's airing in this country and showing people. No, you just don't do it.
Right. and that was the question in the 90s when Doctor Who had been off the air since 1989, and they were going to bring back Doctor Who in a partnership with Fox. There was a lot of questions. Should we start from scratch? Should we just make it like an Americanized Doctor Who? Should we continue the story? And they ended up making the decision to continue the story. But then Fox was like, well, we don't want some British actor. Let's get somebody that American fans already know. Let's get the musician Sting to play the Doctor. They did not do that.
Thank God.
But that's how we got Paul McGann to be the Doctor, and he continued the story of the Doctor. Something I meant to say earlier when we were talking about, when I briefly mentioned River Song, is so all that time when Doctor Who's been off the air, and even since it's been back, in Britain, the radio is still a thing.
Yeah.
So they still do like radio plays of a lot of their favorite shows, and Doctor Who was no exception. They still sell a lot of audio adventures and audio plays of different shows. Again, Doctor Who is no exception. So they actually do continuing adventures of the different Doctors. Because let's face it, you could have Tom Baker, who is a little more advanced in his age now, but you hear his voice and you don't know he's more advanced in age.
Yeah.
And they are, Big Finish is the name of the production company that does the audio production. They are going to do audio adventures of River Song.
Nice.
And they're also doing, one of the audio adventures is of the Eighth Doctor, Paul McGann, and his episode will feature River Song in it somehow.
Wow.
So that's going to be a huge seller for them.
A while back when you and I were talking, Kali, it's been a few years now, is right when the rumors of David Tennant leaving the show were happening, so it's been a while. There was rumors that David Tennant was going to do an American series where he was playing a lawyer, and then that got canceled. Did any plans to, maybe renew that, or what's happening with? Do you know what's happening with David Tennant now?
I'm not fully sure. So they did a pilot, it just didn't get picked up. Honestly, David Tennant did a really bad American accent.
Really?
I don't know if do you remember the Doctor Who episode? If it had David Tennant, it was with Martha, and they go back to 1930s New York.
Yeah.
He did that accent, that American accent.
Okay.
In Chicago, as a lawyer. I'm like, that just doesn't work for me.
See, I didn't see the pilot. I have yet to see this pilot that he did. I don't even know what's out there.
That was the only clip I saw where he's in his apartment, somebody comes in to talk to him, and it's like, I'm doing this kind of accent, and it's like, oh, I can't.
He did That's My Fighting Hand.
Right. But then you watch him in, what was it, Grace Point?
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was a much better American accent for him. He has been cast in Marvel's Jessica Drew.
Nice.
They have renamed it. It's no longer AKA Jessica Drew. It's now just Jessica Drew. He's been cast as a villain whose name currently escapes me. I know he got picked up. Broadchurch was the American show. I'm trying to very quickly open up on my phone. I am parked now, by the way. I'm not trying to drive and talk on the phone and web search while I'm doing all this. Just because anybody's out there going, I know what he's doing. Also, pornography. I hate the mobile version of stuff sometimes. Okay. He's in a couple of movies. I Feel Fine, Metanoia, Reds and Grays he's just doing a voiceover. He's in Jessica Jones as Kilgrave from the Marvel Universe. He's in a movie short called 96 Ways to Say I Love You. He's doing another voiceover for something called Chew. He was the narrator for a TV series that only lasted 8 episodes called W1A. I know I actually looked up, and now I can't remember what it was about. I want to say it was like a news studio.
He does, my son, the only reason why I know this is because my son watches it. He's the voice of Twigs in Treefoo Tom, which is a Sprout exclusive. He's done stuff like the Clone Wars, The Clone Wars. There's one for you crossing over.
Right.
Let's see.
What's funny to me about a lot of that is George Lucas was a huge Star Trek fan and a huge Doctor Who fan. And before he created Star Wars, he actually went to the BBC and tried to buy the rights to Doctor Who. And then he went to CBS at the time and tried to buy the rights to Star Trek. And when he couldn't get either, that's what led him into Star Wars. And when you look at the very first Star Wars movie, not only Peter Cushing, and I wish I could remember the character's name in Star Wars. I'm going to feel so bad because, I watched the Star Wars movie, but I'm not the biggest Star Wars nerd. But Peter Cushing, who played the Doctor in two movies in England, was cast as a bad guy, as a major bad guy in the first Star Wars film. And a lot of the actors in the first Star Wars movie had been throughout the Doctor Who series. So there were a lot of tie-ins from Doctor Who to Star Wars on the acting side of things, not the storyline.
This Jessica Jones thing, this is like the next Marvel Netflix original, apparently.
Yeah, Jessica
And
Jones is.
if
And then,
Daredevil did so damn well and was so freaking awesome, I loved Daredevil, as did 90% of all the other people out there. I mean, if you haven't seen it, if there's two things you get Netflix for, it's Orange is the New Black and Daredevil. Sorry, that's their that's their meat and potatoes right now. But this looks like, I mean, if this is anything like Daredevil, and if it's going to be shot and produced anything like what Daredevil was.
well, I'm going to back that up because I don't think it should be. And hear me out for a second.
You don't think it should be set in the same universe?
No, I completely think it should be in the same universe. But I don't think it should be shot the same way, and I don't think it should be the same kind of story. I think Daredevil needs its own look and feel, and I think Jessica Jones needs its own look and feel. And the biggest complaint that people have right now about the Marvel Universe is how they treat their women heroes. While at the same time, Marvel has done so much of a better job with their female heroines better than the DC property.
Oh yeah.
They've also missed a huge opportunity for merchandising. So I think
Harley Quinn should have been in a Batman movie years ago. Sorry, that's just how I feel.
Right. But at the same time, Harley Quinn was a creation of Batman the Animated Series and wasn't in the comic books yet. So true. I can see why she wasn't initially inputted into it.
But in the Christopher Nolan movie, imagine if Heath Ledger had a Harley Quinn to play off of. You know?
Oh yeah, I do agree. I think it would have been great, but I can see also why she wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
And because the other complaint about a lot of female heroes is that they're often just the female composite of a male counterpart. So I think having different characters in like Widow and Jessica Drew, I think they can tell a story they can tell a story a different way. So if it's the same tone as Daredevil, well, then you're just getting Daredevil again. Oh, but look, it's somebody else with that character.
Yeah, it's Daredevil with tits. But I mean,
well, I wasn't going to go there.
I will. It's my show.
But at the same time, mix up the production style, so it just has its own look and feel.
Yeah.
Then at the same time, you're creating for television. Well, for Netflix, which is television now for us, you're creating a female hero for this generation that is the star, is the lead of that television show. Because I liked Peggy Carter, or Agent Carter. I did like it. I thought it had a story to tell, but I think they dropped the ball on some elements. I think they backed off on occasion in letting her be the hero. I think sometimes it relied on her to have to rely on men, even though she really didn't need to. It was weird because they bounced back and forth. She had to sneak around and slink around and all this stuff because she couldn't trust her male counterparts, but just because they wouldn't let her play ball with the boys. But then on the other side, she goes to fight in Europe with the Howling Commandos, and she's like tough as nails, and it's like the character you remember from the first Captain America movie.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay.
And I find something going back to Doctor Who and how I mentioned Hot Topic and are they going on Disney XD to target a different audience? There was Paul Gilter, I'm pronouncing his name wrong, I know I am, who's Senior Vice President of Marvel Licensing for Disney Consumer Products, talking about Jessica Jones. He goes, we'll be focusing less on products that are targeted at the very young consumer and more on teens and adults with products at stores and outlets like Hot Topic. They are on the money with this. On the money. So, I mean, that's maybe why we're seeing Doctor Who on Disney XD now. The fact that Doctor Who has had merchandise in Hot Topic for years, people see it and go, I wonder what that is. So they go and get on the internet and find out about BBC America. But now, they're like, I'm not going to go seek out the British channel to watch it. So let's put it on American TV, But no, Doctor Who should never have an American accent. Sorry. It's just...
But if there was a different Time Lord that wasn't the Doctor, that had his own story to tell, would you watch?
But the appeal of the Doctor is that it's been established kind of, well, maybe not more so in recent years with the advent of River Song and how much she knows about the Doctor. And there was that episode, The Doctor's Daughter, that kind of gave hints, which led to kind of nowhere. I don't know. Like I said, I've stopped watching in recent years, but part of the mystique is that he's the last of his kind. It's kind of like Superman. He's the last of his kind, except when Zed, who is the master to his Doctor, comes down and fucks with him. It's kind of like that's part of the mystique, is that he's the last of his kind, and that Gallifrey's missing, and the Time War is kind of over, and here we are having adventures with one of a kind. But if they wanted to do it, I wouldn't be opposed to it. But how do you tie that in without? How do you got to tie it in with the main series without pissing off the Brits? It's just how it is.
Right.
You have to do it that way. Because if the British sit there and go, oh my God, the Americans have stolen our reality shows and now they're stealing the Doctor, that's where we draw the line. You can't piss off your core audience either. It's kind of like what Ring of Honor going on Sinclair and Destination America, with Jim Cornette coming in. Jim Cornette's like, you're pissing off the core audience by catering to these new people, same dichotomy. I digress. But anyway, Phil, we're going to let you go, man. We've been on here for almost 2 hours now. Everybody check him out on Twitter at PSPhenom. Facebook, is it still facebook.com/PSPhenom?
At PSPhenom, yes.
All right, go ahead. And
Twitter and Instagram. On Facebook,
Twitter and Instagram. P Stamper. Okay, there we go. I'll put links to all of it down below, guys, in the comments section. For those of you listening on 1640 PWPR, you've heard the interview. You know where to go. Phil, I'd love to keep having you back every couple of weeks. This is awesome. I love the fact that we could jump around so many things besides wrestling.
Well, it's always a pleasure to be on here. Thank you for having me.
Not a problem. And everybody, stay tuned for more news, I guess, about HWA here in the next coming months, weeks, whenever he decides to let something out. He's a promoter now. He's going to be sneaky about how he lets things out of the bag. Can we really trust Phil like we used to? I think we can. Anyway, Phil, thank you very much. And New Search Live will be right back. 1640 PWPR, Facebook.com/1640 PWPR. We'll be right back to wrap up. This has been a 4-hour show now. So we're going to wrap everything up next. Stay tuned. And 1640 PWPR, Facebook.com/1640 PWPR. I want to thank you guys. Everybody's like, why is Joe White? If you're watching the video version, I got my bathrobe on right now, and there's a reason. Is because I could not sleep, so I came down here to record this little bit of a sign-off here. I would like to thank you guys so much for watching and listening this week. Sorry it's such a long show. Thank you, Phil Stamper, for returning. Facebook.com/PStamper, at PSPhenom on Twitter and Instagram. Check out HWA online. Just do a search for Heartland Wrestling Federation or Heartland Wrestling Association. You'll find the guy and this promotion. And can't wait to have Phil back. We're going to get out of here for this week. Next week, kind of want to do a Blading for Surge episode for next week, I think. If Jeff Edwards is up to it. See, I can't talk right now because it's like 1:30. Also, check out the Shark Tank booking episode that we just did with me, Mr. Trivia, Jeff Edwards, Tampa Joe, Firehawk, and I think Greg was on there. I think his name is Greg. I'm sorry if I got that name wrong. I'm so sorry. It's 1:30 in the morning. Check that out. That's a damn good show. And I hope we do more of that. They're going to have a version also with Ken Reedy and a few other guys coming out too. But check that out. For everybody here at 1640 PWPR, I'm Joe White, and we'll see you guys down the road. Thank you so much for watching. If you're watching the YouTube version, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. If you're watching or if you're listening on Spreaker or anywhere else, 1640 is growing. Everybody's numbers are up. Everybody's numbers are good. So give it a listen. Facebook.com/1640 PWPR. We'll see you down the road.